present here. First, I would like to thank Dr. Samhurst for giving me this wonderful opportunity to present and everyone who took the time to attend this event. So, occultism and the art of magic have long been prevalent in Assam as much as in the village of Mayong. Mayong, at best, is both a synecdoche and a metonymy for the whole of Assam, be it matters of demonology or the magical tradition. Mayong is a village in the Morigao district of Assam, about 49 kilometers from the capital Guwahati. It is next to the Pabitara Wildlife Sanctuary, which holds some of the one-horned rhinoceros found in the state. Etymologically speaking, Mayong derived its name from the word Maya, meaning illusion. Now, there are references to Mayong alongside Pragjotishpur in the Mahabharata. Traditionally, Mayong has remained under the impression of being the hub of the occult, a fact interspersed with history, myth, and reality. Various legends surround Mayong. For example, people disappearing into thin air, altering into animals, and tigers getting magically tamed. One still is afraid of visiting Mayong, given the haunting alarm that one never returns from that place, that you are taken captive forever with the power of magic. Now, Mayong presents a unique case since A, it lies on the banks of the Brahmaputra, on the same shore as that of Kamakhya. In fact, one can map the linear trajectory from Kamakhya temple on the west to Mayong on the east. So there is undoubtedly a sort of cross influence here, particularly as the Kamakhya temple stands as the tantric hub in the whole of India. Lakhs of visitors and tantrics flock to the temple during the holy Ambubachi Mela, especially priests and ojas seeking to gain supernatural power. It is probably very true to argue that tantric knowledge may have seeped into Mayong from neighboring Kamakhya. And reason B, one can trace the amalgamation of different faiths in Mayong, the intermixing of Tibetan and Tantric Buddhism with Shaktism alongside the folk practices of various tribe groups. The propagation of Buddhism concerning Mayong as the vantage point for the rest of the Northeast holds legit, as the village initially came under the Pala rule. But one key feature of Tantricism, elements of which are found in both Vajrayana Buddhism and Shaktism, was the inclusion of the marginalized, especially in empowering them, giving them a voice against the caste oppressions prevalent in various parts of the subcontinent. Now, if one examines some of the prevalent magical practices, it would not be a surprise to find parallels with James Fraser's sympathetic magic. How most of these rituals are grounded on the idea of mimicry. Though the mantras that are used may seem gibberish, if, however, analyzed carefully, it would reveal that a large chunk of these mantras are invocations to Lord Shiva and Goddess Parvati, alluding to the Shakti faith, and at times to Ram, Hanuman, and other gods of the Hindu pantheon, largely based on the Indian epic Ramayana. It is a fairly known idea that Indian society since the Vedic times has championed magico-religious beliefs and practices merged with some forms of empirical knowledge, which later helped form the basis for different healing mechanisms. The Atharva Veda contains detailed accounts of these beliefs and practices involving gods and spirits, sacrifices and incantations, sorcery and evil eye, and charms and amulets. Before being accepted as the fourth Veda, the Atharva Veda was known as the Atharva Angiras. The Atharva acquired a sense of magical formulas, mostly denoting white magic. Angiras, on the other hand, designated black magic. Therefore, Atharva Angiras taken together comprises of formulas that include both white and black magic. The Atharva Veda gets seen as the storehouse of magical beliefs for the people of ancient India. There are charms in the Atharva Veda that give full swing to overcome or destroy one's rivals. For example, there are spells to overcome a woman's rivalry in love. Say, if the husband was attracted to another woman, incantations were carried out to destroy the rival's sex organ. She was also cursed to become the bride of Yama or remain unwed forever. In India, one can find the folk system of medicine in various parts of the country. The folk system is grounded upon traditional knowledge, beliefs, and superstitions regarding the causes, cures, and prevention of diseases. Much of the traditional medical lore outright belongs to the field of the occult and the supernatural. In today's time, when modern medical facilities have become rampant across the nation, the desire to cling to folk healing is still widespread and deep rooted. The urge towards folk healing may be ascribed to three reasons. Number one, the traditional healer seems close, given he resides in the same village and shares the same cultural space. Therefore, a sense of trust is established, and the remedy applied is more natural and familiar as against the distant approach and alienation felt when it comes to a modern doctor. Number two, the folk remedy is always a good backup plan and a safe resort, especially when modern treatment proves to be of no avail. Number three, modern medical facility demands to be paid in advance and in cash, contrary to the folk system where one may pay in kind and later. Uh, Many manuscripts dealing with the magical, religious, and empirical varieties of traditional medical lore have remained in possession of medicine men from all over Assam. Generally known as Karatis and Nidanputhis, these manuscripts have preserved the indigenous healing art, ranging from the empirical to the esoteric and the occult. What is interesting to note is that some of the manuscripts even cover the diseases of animals and their treatments. For instance, the Hasti Vidyarnava, literally the sea of knowledge of elephants, is a remarkable manuscript, mostly comprising of paintings that deal with the nature and cure of elephant diseases. Similarly, the Ghura Nidan, that is the treatment of horses, is solely devoted to curing of horse diseases, and even it suggests the steps to be undertaken when spirits possess a horse. And there are more sophisticated texts widely circulated across the state of Assam, such as the Kamaratna Tantra, which mainly concerns the attainment of erotic powers. It describes how, through charms and other methods, a man can be subdued, attracted, made hostile, paralyzed, killed, freed from evil, excited, and so on. The Aini Akbari, written in Persian by Abul Fazal during the reign of the Mughal Emperor Akbar, also attests to the magical practice prevalent in the state, particularly divination by examining a child cut out from the womb of a pregnant mother. Another fascinating source comes from a Persian title named the Baharistan-e Khaibi, which chronicles the history of Mughal wars in Assam, Coach Bihar, Bengal, and Orissa during the reign of the Emperor Jahangir and Shah Jahan. The text was authored by one Mirza Nathan. The text mentions that the Ahum practiced divination before participating in any warfare. Nathan further mentions that the Ahums prepared a raft made of banana leaf, put some charmed objects there, and sent it down the river. If it floated towards the enemy's side, it was considered a good omen. However, if the raft returned to them, it was considered a bad omen, and going to war was seen as defeating. Nathan further adds that the Ahums, they sacrificed a black man, a dog, a cat, a pig, an ass, a monkey, a he-goat, and a pigeon, all black. Their heads were collected together and placed on the raft along with many ripe bananas, pan, betel nut, various kinds of scents, rice paste colored red, yellow, and green, cotton seeds, mustard oil, ghee, and vermilion. And then the raft was pushed adrift. Though they tried to make it flow down the stream, if it did not go and return towards them, then their augury proved to be inauspicious, and it was therefore inadvisable on their part to come to the battle. However, many scholars have refuted this claim by Nathan. Firstly, the sacrifice of the ass could not take place since the animal was not seen in the region. Secondly, the Ahums have banned human sacrifices in many places, but these are again different assumptions, or it could be an error in the translation itself. There is no definite way of verifying it. Now, mentionings may be made about the missing people, a tribal group with large presence in Assam, since they present a distinctive example concerning the topic we're discussing. The Missings believe that each person has two spirits. One is the Riji and the other Yellow. The tribe believes that diseases occur when the Yellow ventures far from the body. Alternatively, diseases occur or a man falls unconscious when the Yellow supposedly leaves the body. If the Yellow goes too far, far as reaching the other world, Uyung Among, then the resultant consequences occurs in the person's death. Here, the Mibu, the shaman, tries to find the cause of the yellow's departure and calls back the yellow with proper propitiation, restoring it to the owner's body. What is interesting is in sensing the prevalence of hepatoscopy among the missings. Hepatoscopy generally refers to a method of divination by the liver of an animal or a bird. The liver was divided into sections, each representing a deity, and the markings in each zone were considered important. The missing Mibu interprets the signs on the liver of a sacrificed fowl or a pig and performs divination. The fowl or the pig must be killed in a particular manner. If, if the liver of an animal so killed has a fold in the corner, it is believed to be the forecast of a fire. If there is a hollow spot, then it implies the prediction of a person's death. If the spot remains covered with a membrane, then the underlying notion is of great misfortune, but an escape from death. In this fashion, the Mibu has his interpretations concerning the color, texture, veins, or spots of the liver. Another widely held magical ritual in Assam tends to be part of children's play. It's popularly known as Pekulibia, or the marriage of frogs. This marriage is often conducted when there is a shortage of rainfall. Though outright it may seem absurd, it's undertaken with all serious intonations. And surprisingly enough, it almost became an effective method, be it matters of sheer coincidence or magic. It's an elaborate ceremony held for rain making, where two frogs are caught, tied by a thread, and kept in two different households. One is made the bride, the other the groom. The whole village participates in the marriage ceremony of the frogs. As mentioned, the ceremonies observed are akin to human marriages. The Pekulibia is curiously followed by rain, thus strengthening the belief in its efficacy. Now, it's hard to pinpoint a definite origin or etymology of the term Mayong. According to a popular myth, Mayong, lying on the banks of Brahmaputra, was the favorite place of the goddess Kamakhya. It is believed that a Shakti shrine was located on the hills of Mayong. The belief inferred that the goddess Kamakhya used to visit the Shakti shrine in Mayong every year, particularly during the 6th day of the spring season, alongside other gods and goddesses. Mayong, which closely resembles the word Maya, meaning illusion, suggested that the goddess used to experience Maya there. Another version attests that the name Mayong is derived from Mar Ongo. Mar refers to mother and Ongo means limb, specifically the female organ. According to Hindu mythology, after Sati's death at her father's house, Daksha, Shiva is said to have roamed the earth with the corpse of Sati. During this period of intense grief, the other gods attempted in different ways to console Shiva, though in vain. Vishnu was then asked to bring Shiva to sanity. Lord Vishnu, with his Sudarshana chakra, is believed to have cut Sati's lifeless body into 52 pieces that fell on different parts of the earth. Each of these places later became Bhakti Pith. In each of these pithas, Sati is believed to be constantly living in some form or other jointly with her husband Shiva. The underlying belief is that one of the organs, Marongo, of the Divine Mother Sati fell on this area, after which it came to be labeled as Mayong. The possible suggestion is that it was her upper chest or her breast that fell on Mayong. If it is true, it fits properly with the origin of Kamakhya, where it is believed that Ma's pubic end, that is her sexual organ, fell on the Nilachal hilltop, leading to the creation of the Kamakhya temple. An archaeological site of religious importance in Mayong is the Kasohila Hill, situated on the Brahmaputra river bank. The deities Uma Maheshwara used to frequent the place owing to the area's scenic beauty. On one such occasion, a large tortoise is said to have come to the hill to lay eggs. However, the tortoise spotted Uma Maheshwara engaged in making love and remarked that a divine couple should not commit such acts. The divine couple became furious and their wrath fell on the tortoise. They cursed that the tortoise should remain a rock forever at Kasohila Hill. Though the tortoise begged for forgiveness, the divine couple replied that she would get liberation from the curse only when the holy water of the Brahmaputra touched her. The hill with time came to be known as Kasohila. Kaso meaning tortoise and Hila meaning rock. This large stone shaped like a tortoise still stands today, facing northeast towards the Brahmaputra river. Another version associated with the Kasuhila suggests that the sculptors carved out the rock in the shape of a tortoise to be used as a totem for tantric practices, attesting to the fact that the area was under the influence of Buddhist Tantrism. This version further gains ground considering the fact that the tortoise is seen as one of the incarnations of the Lord Buddha. A popular belief widespread not just in Mayong but in the rest of Assam is that of the Bira. The Bira is a pet spirit like any household pet that one is generally familiar with. In the interviews I conducted and in hearing from my own extended relatives, the Bira appears to be a 4 feet tall, dark shadow, almost akin to the shadow of a wild kid running naked. An alternative description mentions the Bira to take the form of a rat in being a shapeshifter. The Bira must be fed raw chicken daily, otherwise it would hurt, sometimes killing its own owner. There is a process of making the Bira, however. The priest or the Oja who wishes to craft the Bira ventures to the cremation ground to collect the corpse's burned ashes. Generally, the Oja seeks the ashes of prisoners, wrongdoers, outcasts, and people who died of suicide, accidents, or unnatural deaths. The Oja then does his charm and puts his spell on the ashes to craft the Bira out of it. Once the Bira is formed, he is put under the Oja's command, even allowing the Oja or the priest to lend the Bira to a family seeking it. The Bira is generally employed to harm others or the target family. When it is inflicted upon a person, that person behaves hysterically, often leading to permanent mental derangement. The Bira is known to pull pranks and create havoc in general. There have been previous examples where the Bira used to pull acts such as putting shoes in cooked food, damaging household properties, biting babies, etc. Benudhar Rajkua, in his popular Assamese Superstitions and Demonology, has recorded some magical acts which the people of Mayong are believed to be capable of doing. He has recorded them in the following words. A man's seat sticks to him and does not drop off until the mystic recites counter incantations. B, a cooked pigeon, when eaten, becomes alive inside the stomach and flapping its wings continually kills the man. C, when a man eats rice and milk, it is never digested but takes root in the stomach. He dies within 6 months. And D, a rib of a plantain leaf is turned into a snake. Another magical act which is part of a popular narrative in Mayong, as narrated by many people, is witnessing chilies walking on their own. The following comes from an incident I read elsewhere. Once a Bej, a priest in Mayong, invited a few guests for dinner. Plates and bowls were laid before them, but the chilies were not placed. Astonishingly, the chilies walked themselves from the kitchen. Each guest had to catch one chili, but before consuming it, they must break one end of it. Otherwise, the charmed chili may as well harm the eater. Pigeon meat was served in the main course. In general, pigeon meat is considered to be a delicacy, an important part of Assamese cuisine. The guests dining were required to appreciate the dish and relish it, failing to which the cooked meat would turn into a live pigeon and fly away. A similar instance will be of the Abhisar mantra, used covertly by the priest. Upon interviewing them, almost all the priests denied its existence or practice. The sole reason is that it's too direct and comes directly under the realm of black magic. The mantra necessitates that duck eggs, fish, and birds can be charmed to make them the vehicles or the agents of murder. The person against whom the mantra gets directed will die, as the eggs or the like will suffocate the victim to death by entering his stomach. When it comes to Mayong, one area that certainly cannot be missed is snakebite. The treatment of snake bites belongs to the field of the occult. No other remedy except dispelling the venom with incantations is normally trusted. The treatment of snake bites is of profound significance, and a great deal of mystery surrounds the whole affair. As soon as a snake bites, the locals tie a knot over the wound to restrain the venom from mixing with the blood. Meanwhile, a person, apparently the messenger, goes to fetch the priest. Interestingly enough, as soon as the priest sees the messenger, he slaps him harder. The underlying notion affirms that the harder the slap gets, the quicker is the healing process. Slapping the messenger outright arrests the venom. The slap is believed to be thoroughly thorough in arresting the poison. Another method includes sucking out the poison with the priest's own mouth. But the most popular narrative is when the badge or the priest calls out to that snake who bit to come back and suck out its own poison. Times a charmed stone is placed on the wound, or the latter is washed away with charmed water. Another strange way of treating snake bites involved smoking hookah. The tobacco was charmed and the patient had to smoke it. As the tobacco in the hookah pipe ended, the pain subsided and the patient felt relieved. The same mechanism was used to cure other pain-related disorders. An interesting aspect to be seen here is that the priest won't accept any payment nor take any remuneration. Certain norms bind them, and their art prohibits them from seeking money or aid concerning snake bites. The badge does it out of his heart and considers it his moral duty to help any individual bit by a snake. Lycanthropy was a popular notion in Mayong, though considered a delusion where the patient believes he has transformed into a wolf, a tiger, or any other animal. But in Mayong, the changing of forms and shapes was faithfully believed and seemed real to the locals and even outsiders. And it especially concerned changing into tiger, no other animal. For reasons magical or otherwise, tiger and tiger lore always remained popular in that area, mainly because of the Pobitora Wildlife Sanctuary, which lies in the same district as Mayong, and it still holds a great number of wildlife population, be it, rhinos or deers. And now Mayong used to have a large population of tigers initially, which might have given birth to much of this tiger lores. Some say it was done with the intention of hunting, while others lay different claims. Now, there are steps mentioned to achieve this transformation in becoming a tiger. Firstly, lay a piece of banana leaf on the ground. Then a line is drawn with fire made of paddy chaff. Another line gets drawn with charcoal. The lines drawn mimic the stripes present on the tiger's body. The required incantations or mantras are chanted on the banana leaf. And finally, the hopeful rolls over the banana leaf with the leaf sticking to his body, thereby leading to his becoming a tiger. Widely prevalent form of sorcery in Mayong was the use of ban. Its literal meaning is that of an arrow. The metaphor of the ban stands to represent how inflicting magic on someone is like shooting an arrow at the target person. Many ban exist, for example, the Purukh ban, the Rokhni ban, the Lengra ban, the Bhekuli ban, etc. But not all bans are harmful. A few, like the Mohini ban, are used mainly as love potions to attract a person. A ban is based on what Fraser would call sympathetic magic. Generally, a replica of the victim is prepared with rice powder and pricked with a straw, believing that this would also affect the intended person. At times, sorcery is also conducted through the burial of charmed objects based on the magical law of pars pro toto, including nail clippings, fallen hair, clothes smeared with the first menstrual blood of a girl, bones of dead animals and men, dried flesh and skin of animals and birds, and many more. Any number of these objects may be charmed with mantras and buried in the household compound of the victim to cause him great harm. To conclude, the folk healer of Mayong, known as Bez, exercises a significant amount of power and is often revered. The community recognizes him as competent to treat a person suffering from physical, mental, or social illnesses. The mantras used by the Bez are of two types. Viz, one group used for the welfare of the people, known as white magic, and another group applied for causing harm to others, known as black magic. However, it's always hard to draw the exact boundary in demarcating what constitutes black and what constitutes white. In today's Mayong, no priest or Bez would readily admit the prevalence of black magic. They will say it was a thing of the past. When inquired about the Vishar mantra, the head priest in Mayong clearly denied its usage. At best, Mayong is a close-knit community. They don't want to let out their knowledge to outsiders. The art of magic, the great number of manuscripts they possess, and the knowledge of the occult all these are sacred to the village's residents. They have maintained their position by not allowing this knowledge to step outside their community. It is also a matter of great trust. The badge or practitioners must find the right apprentice to teach him the art. Often it takes decades to learn and master the art of magic. It is worth mentioning that the utterances of the mantras are not intelligible and cannot be understood easily. As Malinowski observes, most magic was chanted in the form of sing-songs, and it was profoundly different from ordinary utterances. A magician recites spells in a rhythmic, metaphorical, and alliterative manner, with weird cadences and repetitions. The words do not have meaning in any ordinary sense. It was rather the sound that mattered the most. Many priests and magical practitioners in Mayong believed the same, that the sounds produced while uttering a mantra has curative power. It is natural if one does not understand the meaning of the mantra. Mentionings, Mentioning may be made of Dr. Alexander Dogel, who was keen on discovering unscientific modes of native practitioners in Russia. He came across the talking away method prevalent amongst the natives to cure pain and prevent bleeding. To his surprise, he discovered that certain timbrel of voices works internally to reduce pain and lower cardiac activity, which help prevent external hemorrhage. His noted experimentation on sonic therapy is worth mentioning, where sounds are used to cure various diseases. Dogel posits that certain kinds of human voices produced distinctly have a profound physiological influence on a person's body. One key example would be the witchcraft medicine practiced by the shamans in Siberia, a form of practice grounded on sonic treatment. The musical tune of the tambourine, accompanied by the shaman's rhythmic voice in the singing of devotional songs, collectively brings effectual leverage to the physiological change in the body. Parallel to this, it has been found that Nam, N-A-A-M, a form of folk music popular across Assam, has been effective in curing ailments. There are many testimonies, not just in Mayong, but the whole of Assam, that testifies to the healing powers of Nam. But the legacy of the magical prowess and popularity that Mayong enjoyed certainly declined after the advent of Eka Hornod Hormo, preached by the great Hongordeva. It forbade the practice of magic. Eka Hornod Hormo or Hongordev Vaishnavism preached monism. It prevented the worshipping of idols. Now, this created problems for followers of the faith, especially the ones who converted to Eka Hornod Hormo, since the prevalent form of magic thrived with mantras that deified and celebrated various deities, where proper reverence had to be paid to the latter. In due course of time, the use of mantras dwindled alongside the practice of magic, particularly the dark ones. But it took a new shape, a new form, that is folk healing, in the form of folk medicine in treating diseases. In my latest interview with a tantric from Mayong, I was told something fascinating. Though he grew up in Mayong but presently resides in Guwahati, mentioned that magic from Mayong traveled all the way to the Andamans. Though one cannot verify his claim, mentioning that it was more of an insight from the tantric community, but to his claim, some original inhabitants or tribes from Mayong migrated to the Andamans a long time ago. Interestingly enough, he further mentioned that a group of tantrics were sent from Assam and other regions during the latter half of the 20th century to the Andamans precisely to cure snake bites. It may or may not be true, but it is an interesting take nonetheless. To sum up, one cannot directly encounter magical practices in Mayong today, especially if one is looking for the dark arts. It may be secretly practiced somewhere, but no priest or badge would claim its presence today. The same is the scenario with other pockets of Assam. There are places elsewhere in Assam where one may seek to locate black magic, but it's kept a secret, conducted secretly and in private. But in myths, stories, gossips, or talks, one still can find its mentioning and how it indirectly affects people's lives and relationships. In Mayong today, the art of magic is dying somewhere. What once defined the whole area is dwindling, given the upcoming generation is not interested in learning about it since it provides no economic opportunities. Further, those who were great practitioners of magic are too old. Many have already died. A large number of manuscripts dealing with magic have been destroyed willingly and thrown into the river owing to the belief that they require proper care, be it sacrifices or carrying out of rituals. It won't be wrong to assert that magic in Mayong is in crisis today. A museum was established in 2002 in Raja Mayong called the Mayong Village Museum and Research Center that houses artifacts, articles, and some 90 manuscripts. The objects found there dates back centuries old, with findings ranging from the prevalence of Buddhism to Ahom rule and beyond, even housing some exceptional articles used for magic. If one wishes to, one can surely visit the place to witness the region's past legacy and see some of the things that were used for the magical arts previously. Now, toward the end of my presentation, I've got some pictures that I would like to show. So this is a terracotta sculpture of Shiva found from the place Kasohila that I mentioned already. Now it probably gives us the impression that, yes, there was this amalgamation of faiths, be it Buddhism and Shaivism or Shaktism, or the folk habits that which sort of got merged together around the medieval time, like probably 10th century AD to 14th century AD, somewhere around there. This is the sculpture of flying nymph. It has been found from the same place, again, Kasohila. And legends and myths abound to this day that there was one flying nymph, and in Assamese we call it Pori, flying Pori, and people still believe that there was a flying nymph, or probably she still there is. These are some of the tantric equipments used by the Buddhists who settled in Mayong back in 10th century AD or so. After all, it proves that there was, a strong presence of Buddhism in Mayong. And also, I mentioned it already, that Mayong sort of became the gateway, for Buddhism to spread across the whole, state and other surrounding northeastern regions. It's there. And these are some of the bones which are found in the Mayong Museum itself: rhino ribs and elephant bones, again from Mayong. This is the tail of a porcupine used for magical purposes, probably for the dark arts, who knows. And these are some fascinating finds. It includes the head of an oriental lizard, vagina of a tigress, head of Asian stinging catfish, and some plant, I suppose. And it goes on, and it also holds the head of an oriental rattlesnake. These are all used for magic, by the way. And we have the head of heart of an owl, backbone of a cobra, and roots of a giant fern. And goes on. Again, one can see deer horn and flesh of flying fox. The museum holds some of this great findings, I suppose. The flesh of an owl, skull of a Bengal slow iris, and all these objects that you guys just saw were found in this box. And this box belonged to one priest named Jatin Deka. After his death, it was discovered, and they were surprised to find all this weird sort of objects lying intact in the box. But probably they were used sort of as amulets to defend oneself from other sort of magical attacks if someone is trying to harm you or your family. There are lots of possibilities here. And then again, it's one of the very famous Bej priest in Mayong. His name is Tilak Hazarika. I did interview him recently, last year. And you can see that he is trying to, cure backache through the, what you call charming of the copper plate, the bronze plate, the plate is sort of stuck to the person's back, and as soon as the pain gets relieved, it subsides, the plate falls on its own. This is also used for snake bites and other pain-related disorders. And these are some of the manuscripts which are found in the museum for different purposes. It's very hard to read because these are again written in old Assamese, dating back to probably 14th century AD, 15th century AD. It's very hard. It's very much Sanskritized somewhere. Again, manuscripts. And this is the museum that I was talking about, Mayong Village Museum and Research Center. It was established in the year 2002. So I think I'm done here. Any questions